So welcome to my session. It's called AI with Drupal, and the subtitle is using LLM technology is quite simple. You've seen lots of examples already, and there's more to come. But how do you actually build useful applications? And what I was thinking when I created the title is, we all see these crazy things, that you can do, but you have to somehow make this worthwhile for you or for your clients. It has to work. You have to be able to deliver it. And if you're an agency, you have to be able to earn money with it. And I try to put this all together in a way so that we can just talk about it, and then I will share what we are looking at, and then hopefully give you ideas like what you can do. Before we start, that's me. I'm Christoph, and I'm one of the co-founders of One Internet. And what I do there, among also some management stuff, is I do a lot of R&D, research and development. So that's what I really like. And naturally, AI is a part of this. So that's what I do a lot. And for today's presentation, my thinking was we should do the following. There are some people here in the room that know this really, really well. And then there are some people in the room that are new to this and maybe understand this sort of. Yeah? And I think in order to have a good conversation about what you could do, we should all be on the same page. So I will do some introduction stuff to just really explain to you what's actually happening there. Because you see magical things, but you just don't know this is actually not so magical if you know what this does. Yeah? So that's what I would like to start with, yeah. And then you'd also immediately understand what can you do out of the box just right now, yeah. And then I do some live demo, yeah. It's always good to do live demos on Drupal Dev Days, and then we'll look at what can you not do, yeah. And then we put this all together, and then just discuss a little bit so what is it that you could actually deliver already today, and how would you approach it, and how would you work with your clients. Given that the room has some really knowledgeable people and some less experienced people with AI, yeah. So it's for you. I think if you know this already, for you, it's maybe interesting to see how I present it, because you can use it when you pitch this to your clients. How can you actually make them understand what it is that you do? So that's what you would get out of it. Everyone else who's maybe a bit new, I hope there will be some effects for you, when you see what I'm talking about. We're a small group now, so if you don't understand what I'm saying or there's questions, when you want to learn, you want to know, just say the question, I'll repeat it, and then answer it right away. This is for you to, get something out of it. All right, that's why the agenda, basic knowledge, demo time, limitations, and then we get to small discussion what we can do. All right, let's start. So a large language model is simply a statistical application that predicts output text based on input text. As simple as that. Put something in, and you get something out with a very high probability that this makes sense. That's really the only thing it does. And we call this AI because they're getting so good that you just actually can't tell anymore if you're just talking to a machine or you're talking to a human being. Yeah? And if you've maybe studied this in computer science, or you've seen an Enigma movie or Blade Runner or something, that's exactly these tests. It's called Turing test. Yeah? And it's fair to say, for some applications, we are there, and that's why we call this, what has been around for quite some time, we call this AI. Yeah? Okay, so how does this work? So when a large language model is trained, yeah, you take a huge amount of data, huge amount, of documents, yeah, and these documents, they contain text, they contain semantic information, they contain image information, and there's intrinsic relationships between the elements in there. Yeah? And by training on this huge data set, you uncover these relationships between the elements, yeah, and these make up your large language model in the end, because they are then used to just generate text. Yeah? And they're called large language models because you have to take huge amount of data to get something useful out of it, and you will in the end get billions of parameters so that the model can answer on very many different topics. Yeah? This is what's called neural networks, really. It has been around for a long time, and now it's really great applications like large language models. Large language models refers to text, language text. So let's start with the first thing. Should you train your own large language model? No. Really you can't, unless you just really know what you're doing. You don't have the data for it. You don't have the data prepared for it. You don't have the time and the know-how to train models. Yeah. Except that you're a specialized company. A friend of mine works in a data company that predicts, prices. There something specific you could maybe do, but in general, that's not something you do. Yeah, do you get this asked all the time? Like, oh, does the model learn from it? Can I train the model? Like how, you know, like you just don't train models. You use pre-trained models that are available for you, and you just use them. Yeah. So, getting back to the model. Yeah. So, a large language model, it creates grammatically correct sentences with a high probability of making sense. Yeah. So, if you put this, and the text is based on the training data. Yeah? So therefore, you can think of the large language model as a software that can talk, but of course, it can only talk about what it knows. So if that question you're asking is part of the corpus, then you can answer. It's football somewhere. And, you know, I mean, makes sense, right? So if you want to ask a question like that's not in the corpus, you won't get an answer unless you do something with it. Yeah? All right, so how do you actually do that? So in a large language model, you just add the information that you want your answer to depend on to the question. So it's kind of like saying, you say like, okay, so I have a washing machine with a Siemens 12345, and I see the arrow F20 on the screen. Can you help me? Yeah, and you pass along the information about that washing machine. So sort of given this manual of the washing machine, what does arrow F20 mean? Yeah, so it's like a long question, so to speak. Yeah, and the large language model digests this and gives you the answer. Yeah, so when you play around, like with any of these, there's two things you pass. So here's the question. Then usually give some instructions, you know, be professional, be polite, be funny, you know, be short, you know, do whatever. And then you pass like the data that you actually want your answer to depend upon. Yeah? All right. So now, this can get really difficult. So for example, so like models internally work with tokens. Yeah, so your question gets like broken into tokens, and that's like what the model works with. And of course, when you pass more data to it, you know, it gets more difficult. Yeah, because wait, is that the right? Yes. So yeah. So like, you know, when you pass more data to it, it takes longer time to calculate, right? I mean, same like read these thousands of pages to answer a simple question. Yeah. So that takes more time than, you know, read something small to answer a question. Yeah. So like, so that's one thing that you have to consider, yeah, because it comes with cost. Like, you know, calculating more costs more, takes more time. Yeah, it gives, you know, a worse user experience. And then, like, when you pass too much information, you also get incorrect answers. You know, if you give a lot of irrelevant stuff in the question, so answer this simple question on this irrelevant stuff, you maybe get an answer that's not so good, and that's what's referred to as hallucinations. That sometimes, you know, the model just says something that it thinks is correct given all this data, but it's just like from your perspective not. Yeah. So there's two things that you can do. It's like number one is you break up a conversation into different parts. That's what's called chaining. Yeah. So for example, if you wanted to, you know, recommend trips, we saw it in the keynote this morning, like a recommender for Zurich, you know, and then you say, let's say you wanted to, you know, go somewhere. Yeah. The first thing you need to know, when are you going, so that you can recommend the correct activities. Yeah. Don't want to give like the full-blown load of activities if you only need some small ones. Firstly, and secondly, you know, in order to be able to load this, you have to break this into two conversations. One is like finding out where the person's going, when the person's going. Second conversation, like, okay, now I know when, where. This is what I can recommend. Following everyone? Okay, nice. Good. So in this data that you put in, that can be fetched or retrieved dynamically. And this is what's referred to as retrieval augmented generation. Sounds super fancy. Everyone says, I do RAG, and here RAG, there, everywhere. Yeah. In the end, it's just nothing else. Then like this data input that you there, it comes from elsewhere. And that could be a search, lexical search or semantic search. We'll see that in a second. But it can also be just regular database queries, can be whatever. Yeah, it just means that you just don't have this here fixed. Yeah, you just fetch it elsewhere. And therefore, you augment your conversation like with data. All right, that's called retrieval augmented generation. Okay, so now let's take another one, which is also relevant for like what you want to do with clients, is to just like look at like what actually happens like inside of these large language models, yeah, and how does you know, text similarity work. So inside of large language models, everything is stored as vectors. Yeah, so you put in take a piece of text, yeah, and that gets converted into vectors, a string representation just of numbers, yeah, and you can think of this, and these are just, think of this as multi-dimensional vectors, you know, 2 dimensions, A, B, X, Y axis, yeah, 3-dimensional X, Y, Z axis, yeah, and multi-dimensional, can't graph it anymore, but same thing, and it's very easy when you have like 2 vectors representing text, yeah, to calculate the similarity, yeah, so this is called this KNN, stands for K nearest neighbors. If you want to have the 10 nearest neighbors, it would be 10 NN, yeah? And you do this by simply, like in this multidimensional space, calculating the cosine, yeah? And it's a fast mathematical method, yeah, to just like find similar text, okay? And that's what's called embeddings, yeah? Need to know that too when you speak. And all right. So now, let's just quickly, like, what is this useful for? So in the best way I could find out, like, think about, like, how to explain this is, like, if you just look at, if you compare lexical search and semantic search. So we've all been building search for ages and you're used to searching, yeah? So, like, when you search, the result of this, the quality of the search results depends on the keywords you use. Yeah, so you have to think really hard, I want to have these questions answered. What would likely be the text on a result page that's good? And these keywords you have to type, yeah? So, and then when you build searches, but of course, like, if you don't know the correct word to ask, then Google will not give you a good answer because you don't know the word that's on the page that you're looking for, yeah? And so, what we have been doing in the past is like to then use, for example, word stemming, like dogs, dog. You want to find, when you type search for dogs, you want to find dog and dogs, yeah? Okay, so that would be grammatically, but you can also do tokenization. So you could have like dogs, tokenize it in tokens of like size of 3, then you would find dogs, but also ogs, yeah? And so that can also make sense. It a little bit depends on the language of what you're indexing. So, I mean, you know this, yeah? And then you can add synonyms, you know, if you have dogs and woofy, so then you can also find woofy when you search for dog, yeah? Or vice versa, yeah? Okay, but you can only match words, yeah? And that's the difference for semantic search, because there you just actually, you match similarity, so you match meaning. Because, and here's like a nice example. Look, I forgot my phone in my house, great. And I left my mobile at home, damn. Means exactly the same, but except the I, like every word is different. So no chance that you would find this page by searching any of these words. Yeah? So, and that's what like similarity-based search based on embeddings overcomes, because the vectors representing these 2 phrases, they will be very similar. So they will show up, and then that will be like a candidate for your search result, and that's how you can represent it. Yeah? Having said that, semantic search is not better. It's just different. You know, if you want to search like large data sets, you know, like for example with like unique numbers or something like this, you want to load product data from large database by product ID. I mean, then you just wouldn't do this with semantic search, right? All right, demo time. See if this works. If you want to, you can follow along. So this is on ai.warningsinternet.de. Yeah, and so we're using OpenAI, and OpenAI costs money. So therefore, when you log in, it's like limited how many requests you can make. Otherwise, like our balance goes down so fast. And so let's take a look. So, oh no. Okay, of course, that's not so easy to demo then. I was smart. I have it now. It doesn't help because I have it local, but it talks to OpenAI. Okay, fallback. Like, sorry, I was going to give you a very nice demo, but what I can then also do, I have it as a video recording here, and that would be here. Okay, so what you see when you go in there and you press, so I loaded, oops, sorry. I loaded all the information from a website into, as a pre-prompt, into a chat. And I then instructed the chat, I'm going to show you the exact instructions in a second. I instructed the chat to just answer questions based on this. And it's really useful. So like what I so actually, yes?
Can you zoom in slightly? It's difficult with the video.
Yes, let me see, that's a video. So can I zoom in video? That's the best I can do. I'm sorry. Like, see if the network activation actually comes back on. No, it doesn't.
There's different Wi-Fi today. Try
Yeah, maybe try this one. Can you please tell me the keyword?
yeah. P-R-O-E.
P-R-O-E, yeah.
KT.
KT
0030.
0030. Ah, yes. Okay, we can go back to live demo, much nicer, because then you can actually say what I should ask. So this is live here, so let's start a chat. And maybe I'll show you like how this chat was instructed, yeah? So like here, so it's like a very simple module that just, allows you to just paste like instructions and data, yeah? So the data, I just took from the 3 days website, I just took that down, formatted this as markdown syntax, yeah, because like large language models, they're really good with structured data. Doesn't have to be markdown, could be whatever, yeah. And put all this text in here, and I just gave as instructions. I said like, okay, your job's to answer questions. You'll get the data in markdown, yeah, and only answer based on this. And if you can't answer, point to the website and be short and professional, and greet the user on the first message. Yeah, so that's what he's doing. Hello. So who has a session that's not yet held? Marcus, you have one, right? Marcus, who else has a session? You are holding a session?
Yes.
Oh, okay. What's your name?
Tom Renner.
And what's the username you used?
Tom Renner.
Okay, so when is Tom's session? Maybe you can understand that. That's pretty useful, right? Okay, so sounds good. Tell me more about the session. Dum. So. Okay. So now, what should I ask? Ask something difficult.
Social events.
I don't think, well, are there social events? I don't know if that was on the agenda, but let's check. Okay, it was not there. Okay. What else? Yes?
Could I ask you, if you were going to make a video about AI in Drupal, take a look at what's there and ask what you'd recommend?
Can you say a little bit shorter questions so I don't have to type so much?
So I'm trying to find out, like, can it tell us to recommend a new talk based around what's already there? So like what's been missed out on? So if I was
Okay.
to create a new AI Drupal talk, come up with something.
I told him to only answer questions on the data. Yeah, so he's
on
probably
the data. So like looking at the data that's there.
okay.
Come up with like a new
Right.
that is,
Very good point. Good point. So let's see. Like, I hope he doesn't time out on this one. Recommend a new session that is best of from all sessions.
Please apply some Zoom.
Yeah, I can zoom here. Yeah, you're right. Here I can, of course, zoom. So it could be that we now hit a wall because we're asking something complicated. Oh. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Come on, say something. Ooh, the highlights information community at Drupal Dev Days. Okay.
gibberish so far. Oh, AI, yeah.
Okay. Oh, and what does he want here? All levels, yeah, look, he even he knows the room already. And it should be on the last day, yeah, okay, right, good point. Do you want to have another one? Yes.
Does the website have a skip link?
No, it is not in the data. I can only answer questions on the data.
Only on the content.
Yes. So, okay, let's look, the content is this. That's the content. He only answers from this. Yeah? Yes?
Okay, sorry.
How many sessions
Ooh, good one, good one. How many sessions are there about AI? There are 6 sessions about AI. Mm-hmm. Okay, we are number 3, so there should be. Okay, here's one. Yeah, so you see, that's actually really useful, you know. So I did that earlier, you know, I had it on my phone. So like, because where do I have to go? When do I have to be there? You know, I mean, this is like, we're already entering the useful field, you know. So it's that you can just do, you know, and like really, it's just like you're passing 2 fields. So, you know, like use your imagination. There's already some stuff that we could just do with this, yeah.
Can you actually
ask
also a question in German?
Sorry?
Can you also ask a question in German?
Ja, also, wann ist die Session von Markus? Ziemlich cool, oder? All right, should we ask another, like, so, ¿cuándo es la sesión de qué? Marcos. Okay, good stuff. Yeah. So let's. So there's a recording. I did like a similar conversation here. Yeah. And I also pasted here the instructions that were used. Yeah, it's super straightforward. Yeah, and I know it's small now, but like it just says, you know, answer on this text, and you know, if you can't answer from this text, point to the website and be friendly, and that's it. Yeah, and be professional. All right. Let me. So here on the next slide would be the video. Yeah, and now let us go to limitations. So what I'm using here is like GPT-4, yeah, and GPT-4o has this pricing, yeah, and the session content of Drupal Dev Days is 27,000 tokens, yeah. So there's like you can go here to OpenAI pricing. I didn't put the URL. There's also a token calculator on OpenAI.com, yeah. So when you pass this data in, yeah, so you have like 27,000 tokens that are sent with every request, right? Remember, you say like, based on this information, answer the question. And to make it even better, it's a conversation. Like he also knows the questions you asked before. You know, based on all the previous questions and answers and the context, answer this question. Yeah, and so that can be quite expensive. A conversation like this costs like 30 cents. Yeah, so like, I mean, this is probably like for Drupal Dev Days, if like, I don't know, 100 people, you have like 10 conversations each, like, I don't know if the budget for this would be there. So it's probably already first limitation. Yeah. Okay. So that's maybe not an option. So what else could you do? Well, SaaS is expensive. That's actually not only for AI, that's for all of SaaS. Yeah. So you should maybe look into like self-hosting more again. And so, but if you want to self-host, like, what model should you use? Like we heard many times, there are like many out there. But the question is not like which one of the many to use. Like, what do you want to use it for? Because like if you don't need your model to speak German and Spanish and English, you can use a smaller model. If you don't need a model that can do like math, you don't need a model that was trained with math. If you don't need a model that does some reasoning that can only speak, you can just use something that's much smaller, for example. Yeah, so you have to actually, you have to actually think about like what is it, and based on this you have to choose, and then you have to test, and then you have to operate it. Yeah, and well, and of course, like we had this already. If you use large model, it's costly. Large machines, more money again. Yeah, so that's what you have to think about. All right. Next challenge: data privacy. Look here. So if you use OpenAI, you just agree to that the stuff goes there, stays there, and they can do with this whatever they want. That's most likely for, at least for our clients, is no-go. Yeah, you can't prevent people from saying, hey, my name is Christoph Breidert, my social security number is this, I am heterosexual, and so on, and blah, blah, like all this stuff that under no circumstances can go anywhere. Yeah, you can't prevent people from like putting that in, yeah, and if, I mean, this just doesn't work. Yeah, you can't do it. No way, yeah. So you have to do something else. Okay, Hugging Face, another service. Same, maybe they're less evil, I was about to say. I don't mean it that way. I meant, but same problem, yeah. So so you have to look elsewhere. So you can self-host on your machines. You can self-host in your private clouds. You can use some services that are collaborations of the two. Yeah, so that's where you have to look. Yeah, so it's not easy to solve. All right, good. So we've seen like the problems and the shortcomings, and so now, like, let's think about like how can we make applications, yeah? So, and that's a really good one that I saw, yeah? So like how you actually want to approach it when you discuss with your clients is you want to look, so what do you have in a workflow that can be automated and that you should automate? And if you can, like that's a conversation you want to have with your clients. So like tell me about like what are you doing all day? What's your staff doing? Like what's like tedious work, like what is like, so yeah, that's how you want to look at it. Okay, so from our perspective, and from our perspective, what we are proposing to our clients is this, yeah, like just the regular stuff, given that we still have to solve like what model to use and how to host it, because like if we just give this to our clients, we want to earn money with it, yeah, we don't want, OpenAI to earn money with it and then we get in trouble. Also, yeah, so like that needs to be solved. We haven't solved it yet, so therefore that's where we are. But like really, what you can do, like if you recommend something, that's probably what you can do, like the obvious things, yeah. So like one that's maybe, so I put semantic search here because I think that probably like within the next 1 to 3 years, searching will be more conversational. Yeah, people will just like ask questions and expect answers. Like we heard this also this morning in the keynote. That's exactly the same what I think too. So I think that's for sure coming, that you just make semantic search in combinations with lexical search, yeah. And so that we are doing at the moment, and we have something ready there. And what's also I think a good one that you could just recommend to clients is just to replace forms, yeah. Especially when you think about like web forms on the websites with all kinds of fields and so you can make this conversational. You can say, okay, do you want to complain about a product? And then you just get all this data. And then once you have it, you just stick it into a form, yeah, and submit it. And it's a much nicer way of just collecting data. Yeah, so that's what we are building to just have ready. But if we in our conversations with clients, we are looking at these things, yeah, and based on this here, that's actually the conversations you want to have with your clients. It's like you want to find labor-intensive tasks or slow tasks or something, and these you won't know. Only your client knows, and there are many. There are really many. Yeah, so could be content editing, but could also be complaint management. Also, like Frederick said it this morning, like if you just have like people responding to emails, yeah, and always sending out the same answer, that's something that you can super nicely automate or prepare at least. Yeah. And of course, what's really powerful, like when you just like can enrich this data, dynamically with like customer information. Yeah. So, say you were logged in on Burgas website, on the Drupal camp website here, and knows who you are, and then when's my session, he can then tell you, or he can like do other things. Yeah. That's it. Thank you for attention. So, questions? You first.
Thank you. Is there any AI tool who doesn't process your information?
So the language models don't store anything, because it's this kind of, it flows through. So they themselves don't store anything, yeah. But the service around, like, they store, and that depends, yeah. So like if it's something like OpenAI, they take your input, save it for you, let it generate an answer, and then give you the answer back and save the answer too. so that you can revisit your conversations later.
Yeah, but confidential things can be a bit dangerous, like
Yes.
you said.
Yes, but you could, but that has nothing to do with the language model itself, has something to do with how the service is built.
So is there any company who is providing service, they just give you answer and delete the things and don't store anything?
I'm not sure. Oh, I can see. More questions? Jamie?
What are you finding out of those things that you're sort of experimenting with clients? What are you finding is the more, like the things they get most excited about?
We're going to build this in for all of them. Yeah, so that's just what we do. So we go to them and say, like, look, like search is outdated. We have to add a semantic search. It's actually because they have an existing search with filters and all this stuff. So like it's actually a UX problem more than a technical problem. Yeah, so we actually have the same setup, I think, what you presented like yesterday. So we're also with Milvus and everything running. So we're just currently doing that. But you have to somehow, for the client, give them an experience. And it's also like semantic search is not the search that sits up in the corner where you click and then search. It's something that comes like, it shouldn't also be like this ugly chat icon on the lower right corner. It should be like in context when you read something and then you say, hey, I can help you. You're looking at the sessions. Do you want me to recommend something for you? Tell me, like, you know, so like that's how you have to do it. And so therefore, from AI perspective, what we're actually using here is really simple, yeah? But like, it's hard to make that simple useful for clients because it's not a technical problem. It's actually like a workflow application problem. Yeah?
And do you find these ideas, you're telling your clients about it and almost pushing them towards it, or do you find people are coming to you and asking for this stuff? Like what?
You have to recommend it.
Recommend it.
That's why like this presentation with these graphics, you know, I've actually shown this quite some times. Yeah. By the way, you saw here no, it's not in the picture, or maybe up there it is. Yeah, so the slides are available. I'll tweet them too. So like, feel free to grab imagery and stuff. And but we're actively educating them and telling them. And cool. once they see, you also have to, like in our experience, that's why if you go to ai.1internet.de, you see all these use cases, and that's like really simple applications, nothing fancy, but it's like you have to see it to understand like what this would do. Yeah? But when you get that, then you get them to see it. Yeah.
Cool. And just about that last question, apparently, so if you go to the OpenAI, the Azure OpenAI stuff, they have a security policy where they specifically say they delete everything. Yes. But you still have to trust Microsoft, AWS Bedrock. You still have to trust Amazon that they'll actually do that. So if you don't trust them, then you could use Olama. I think you mentioned about Olama. You can have it self-hosted, and then that's totally private because it's just on your own server. You can do whatever you like with it. Yeah. If privacy is a problem. So you can
overcome the data privacy problem by running your own model on SaaS, like on Azure or something. Yeah, but then you earn the SaaS problem. Yeah, so they earn the money that you actually want to earn. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, we have seen users jailbreaking like chatbots, and do we tell customers that if they implement a chatbot, maybe users can get to make it like tell something that...
So that's the next problem. I mean, we saw this really nice demo, yeah? So if there come more difficult questions, maybe we could like get OpenAI to say stupid things, yeah? Or maybe that's actually not the worst of it, and people have some fun and say like, haha, look what we can do. But like, what's even worse if it says wrong things, yeah? And now if you have a conversational interface, you know, like you have to monitor like what's going on, yeah? So like, so actually we log every request and response. We just log it to just like a little bit see and to kind of, yeah, but then you get huge amount of data. Like how are you going to find out if something's not good? Yeah, so like convincing the client in some demo is quite easy. But like if you then actually get it on the page and people start using it and it says things that are not correct or not so useful, then this is a bad experience, you know, so it's harmful. So there's something with testing there, like what Jamie's you all are excited about, yeah. So you have to find ways. If you have functionality like this on the page, you have to monitor it. You know what I mean? Just like you do, you know, monitoring of performance or monitoring of like whatever else, like on your websites. You have to monitor this too. It's completely unsolved, yeah. So therefore, where I'm at, so when you asked also like what should go into Starshot in your session, I think like if it can be easy for now, because in my opinion, we're still at the point of like making this useful. Yeah, so it's impressive, but it's just not yet useful. Yeah. Oh, sorry. That it?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.